Leanne and Adelaide back with some updates from garden projects. Now, these are our new fake water lilies, a bit of colour for winter. What I'll do is I'll go through the garden projects by starting from garden project number 1, which was transplanting the elephant ears, and just give you an update on how the plants are all faring. And if you want to go and see any of those videos, just go onto my site and you can subscribe if you like. And I'll be doing plenty more gardening updates, particularly in the warmer weather. At the moment, right now, we're in winter, and we've just gone past a few days ago the winter solstice. So before I start though, some really sad news. Don't know if you've noticed that there's a certain bird missing, and down here that's the cage that we are going to get rid of, which is really sad news because our little lovebird Zoe, and she's featured in another video, she died recently. It was really sad. I came home from work and she was just taking her almost like her last few breaths. I spoke to John on the bus on the way home, and John said Zoe had been ill all day and had managed to fly around a little bit, had a bit of feed, but she sort of, instead of feeding normally, she went like, she actually sort of more or less belly into the food and was sort of resting on the food and trying to eat the food. So clearly not well. And then towards the end she was flying down to the bottom of the cage and then sort of barely able to hold her head up. I'm just going to show you a bit more while I'm talking. Yeah, and she was getting worse and worse and worse, and she was sticking her wings out. And birds, when they're unwell, they'll do that. They won't have their wings all nicely, neatly tucked in. So that was another sign. And then by the time I got home, she was at that point where she was panting. And it was really hard to watch her like that, and I thought, well, what do we do? Like, I didn't want to see her suffer too long, but yeah, not long after that, we didn't actually see her die, but in a moment that happened. But yeah, not long after, probably another half an hour after I came home, maybe an hour at the most, she was dead. So yes, very sad news. I really loved bird. So that cage will be going out in the council, has a where you can ring up to twice a year with hard refuse, and you can take that, they will take any items away as long as they're not a ridiculous size. So that one, we'll just take the tray out from underneath it, but otherwise the rest of it could be easily picked up by two. I think the rule is just as long as it can be easily picked up by 2 people. And that's, like, John and I were able to carry that easily. It's not very heavy at all. It's mostly just, wire mesh type, just wire. So not really much in the way of actual solid stuff going on there. Right, so garden project number 1, that was transplanting the elephant ears. We had it in a pot on the balcony, a self-watering pot, and we were trying to work out how to get it downstairs or over the balcony. Originally the plan was to get it over the balcony by tying up and with a rope and hauling it down. In the end we ended up carrying it downstairs. Now that video is actually my most popular one of the garden projects. Unintentionally funny, like you have to watch it for a while before you see what I'm talking about. There's a couple of funny moments there, and then right at the end you get to see the garden looking a lot better than it is now. So this is how it's looking now. Winter's really hit hard. It just went from being really nice and warm, and then all of a sudden in the space of 2 weeks it went from that to really cold, and the plants have sort of struggled with that transition. So there's a lot of brown. I haven't cut stuff back yet, but a lot of those canna lilies will need to be cut back. There's no flowers at all in this area. There's a couple of flowers hanging on, 1 or 2 flowers. There's one there. Hang on. Anyhow, back to the elephant ears. So this is how it's looking now, and that's not looking too bad for winter. It's got 7 leaves on it. It doesn't look as tall as it did on the balcony. But it's sort of spread out more than balcony. It was growing upwards, more upright for reaching for the light. Here it's getting a bit of winter sun. It looks quite healthy, and no pups as yet, but wouldn't expect that in this kind of weather. But the leaves are nice and green. And over here in the garden bed, there's the other one that we pulled out. Remember, there was a smaller one, if you watched that one. And that's that one there, and that's settling in nicely there. Now, just yesterday, there was in the corner here, around this area, there was a ginger growing in there. It was just growing really badly. It's been there for a long time, and it was getting worse and worse and worse. So we've pulled it out. Not sure what we're going to do. We're going to probably put some manure in there, cow manure or whatever, just to improve the soil, and have a think about what we'll plant there. And this plant here, I'll keep diverging. I will get to the other garden project updates. This plant here, I think it's a Dracaena, and I think it's called Song of India, is its common name. And that was given to me by a lady that I do volunteer gardening for. She said, "Oh, please take, any plants you want." She had some in pots on a patio. She said she's going to get rid of all of them, and I thought I didn't really want to take anything. I mean, I am a volunteer there, but she sort of, she really wanted me to take something, so I grabbed this one. It was very, very crooked. It had all the roots, nearly all the roots were out of the soil, but I think I can get this going again. And I thought I might as well plant it right near the other Dracaena we had here. So that'd be quite an interesting combination. Now, apparently this Song of India one, it's only got 2 little growth areas there, but that can grow up to 3 metres, although in our climate I'm guessing probably 2 metres is more realistic. Alright, so let's move along to garden project number 2. Some of these were very short. So that one was where, and I've got my little cheat sheet here, just going over to check it. That's where we transplanted the hibiscus. So there was a hibiscus in this spot here, in between the 2 tiger grass plants, and it wasn't getting anywhere near enough sun, really struggling. So we transplanted it into the back corner here, and this is how it's looking now. Now, bearing in mind this is winter, I know it's not looking that flash, but what's is good, it's got one really good green leaf. You can just see, every now and then, you can just see a tiny little, that's not going to focus. Right, there's a sign of life anyhow. I think that might be alright. We'll find out later on this year, see how that goes. I think I'll give it until around about the end of the year, and if it's still struggling really badly, you might just pull it out. Because plants like that can take, a year or more to get good again. I'm a bit impatient. I want the garden to look good a lot quicker. Right, so that's the second project update. The third project was where we transplanted, so the hole that was created in here next to the tiger grass, we transplanted just a Canna Bengal tiger in there, in that spot. Now you can see it's looking a bit sick, but all the other cannas in the garden are suffering, as you can see. Like, for example, that one there, brown leaves. There, brown leaves. This one here has got quite a few. It's just the cold, and that's what they do. So I'm quite happy with how that's going. I'm not sure how much it'll flower there, but my plan is probably not to allow it to flower, and that way the leaves will probably end up getting bigger, and just that nice effect when you get some good healthy leaves that are quite a lot bigger than they are now. That will look quite good in that spot there. Now, moving on to the garden project number 4. That was where we did a DIY installing shelving, and there's a couple of funny moments in there, although I didn't, they're on my bloopers video. I should have included it in, it was quite funny. But anyhow, so we had one there, and doing some little projects, possibly for selling some plants down the track. And then the other one was down the side here. I hate walking past this cage. It just reminds me of Zoe. And that's the other one by the laundry there. And some of these cuttings have done really well, some have done really poorly. For example, if I target that, that's given me huge resistance, so that's probably ready to be potted on. Some of these other ones down here, so-so, but, and also not a huge amount of success. I think those plants might be alright, just a matter of removing the brown leaves. And so we've got a real mixture of plants here. Alright, so let's move on to an update of, so the good thing is that even though our DIY skills were pretty poor, they are still standing and able to handle the weight of the pots, and they seem pretty stable, so that's great. Now the next garden project number 5 was where we transplanted the ornamental ginger, and that was on the balcony as well. That's looking much the same. It's sort of all flopped out. I know ginger does that, but and the other thing is it's very green, and I wanted that, a lot more of that colouring, that like that, a bit more of the variegation. Looks like the new growth is coming out like that, and the old growth is, well, it's going to stay like green. I might cut back down the track, perhaps in the growing season or spring, cut back some of the green growth, and then that will hopefully push through some new growth, which will have a lot more variegation in there. Because that's the whole point with that plant, it's got that lovely variegation, and that spot there even gets a little bit of sun, so I'm surprised it's still that green, but there you go. Now moving on to the garden project number 6, and that was the lily pilly. So off over to the side here. So we had the three lily pillies there that were planted a while back. That was about 18 months or so ago, and they've grown really well. And then there was a gap. We pulled out a couple of plants, and I'll update you on those plants that we transplanted. That we had to get them out of the way to put those lily pillies in. And so here's the lily pillies. They're looking okay. This one in the middle's actually grown a bit, but they're all looking healthy. They don't get a lot of sun, but they seem to have settled in, and I'm pretty sure all of them have grown a bit. I should have marked with a pencil on the stake, and we didn't put those stakes in straight away. We had really mild weather when they were transplanted, and hardly any wind for like at least a week or so. But then we saw a forecast for some really strong winds, so we thought we'd better stake them up. They do have quite thin stems, as you can see, quite thin, but then that's the older ones, and they're only like 18 months old, so they're able to, you know, stand up by themselves. They don't need anything holding together, but just for the start they need that. And we use this cloth tie because it doesn't cut into the branches or bark, so it's really safe to use, and it's got a slight give in it, so you want the tree to move a little bit because that'll help strengthen the roots. You don't want it to be rigid, so you do want to allow the wind to blow around a bit. So then in this spot here, this bare space, just in this area, that's where the grevillea went, and it didn't like it at all. It just curled its toes up and started to look semi-dead. So we pulled that one out. The other one, which we called the fluffy plant, which is an Anginanthus, that's looking okay. We've got a few little brown chips on the ends of the leaves, but that's pretty minor. The rest of the plant looks okay, so that's staying, so that's good. All right, now the next one was colour combinations with cannas. You can't see an update from that because basically nothing's flowering, but what I have done is I've started to, when things were flowering, I started to put labels next to the plants. So I'm just going to come in around here, so you can I've written it on a like permanent texture, so that I knew what they were. And then there's another one over there, so you have to come around to the back of the plant to actually see the name. So that one there is a Marie Nagel, and the other one was a Frau Gartenberg. So that was my little method of, once they're not flowering, knowing what they are. I put a label here. That one was a Lucifer. I've got that upside down. I should be standing on the other side. That's the one with the that had primarily lots of red with like a yellow gold edging. Right, and the last project that I did was the herb planting project, and over here you can see I had the 2 different types of mint, and even in these little pots here they're actually coming along okay. So very slowly, but considering how it's winter and you don't expect things to do much. We've picked a crop from the coriander, and that went nicely with the little curry, that sort of Thai style curry. We've picked a few times from the parsley, so that seems to be going okay. They're pretty short, and they're not getting a huge amount of sun. The thing with this yard, it's funny because of the aspect. It's in winter, there isn't a lot of sun coming in. You just get sun for short periods during the day. Now come down the side. Self-watering pot here, that's where the Moroccan Mint was transplanted. Now that's not really done a lot, but what's there looks pretty healthy. And eventually they send out those little underground runners and they'll pop up all over the place. Alright, and then this is the original pot that we've divided up the herbs. That's that project. The last project was number 9, was the experiment where I put in some potash to see how the flowering would improve. Now that was only just finished a while ago and posted a while ago. It's quite recently, so there's really not much of an update, except that if anything there's probably more buds coming on since I filmed that one. So not many in flower, but you know, certainly a lot of buds fattening up. That's been a success. The other thing is, and I don't think I mentioned this at all in the video, now this flower, for example, that hibiscus flowers generally last about 2 days, sometimes even less if really hot weather, but some of these flowers have lasted like 4 days, and that's just really unusual. So I can only put that down to the potash, and certainly in winter time perhaps the flowers do last longer. But 4 days is really, you know, quite a huge difference. All right, so that's all updated with all the projects that have been done to date. And just have a quick look at a few of my little plant collections here. Got all sorts of things going on there. Some plants, some need to be potted up. I've bought another couple of string of beans plants. They will be put into hanging baskets. And what I did was I repotted up a donkey's tail the other day. It was only in a very small hanging basket, and I put it over here. And I just removed a few leaves from this ficus because they go into dormancy and don't look good over winter anyhow. So that actually gets a bit of sun in the morning and a bit in the afternoon, just enough to give it a kick along. So what I'm trying to do is I've got facing this side here, facing the sun. The sun's over, you know, basically it comes in from over this way. And hoping to get more growth coming out from this area, these areas. They'll still get sun there, but I'm not sure how. Just want it to look a bit more even. But the other thing I can do is I can just start propagating from this side, and then that will even things up. So that's all done now. So stay tuned on my channel so subscribe if you want to get more updates down the track. And I'll be bringing you more garden projects and some garden tours as well. That's bye from Leanne in Adelaide. Goodbye.